Hey, how you doing? Let me get a sip and then we'll get on to it. Hold on. Oops. Nope. Almost shut down this thing there. We don't want to do that. Let's just make sure it's up and running. Perfect. It's recording. Good. Okie dokie. Let's do a board editor. Remember what we were working on today? We're going to be working on knights versus bishops. Let's get us an example here. Set up. Okay, we got this now. There we go. Our example shows an a simple position can actually be filled with minor piece tension. Our first example shows how an apparently apparently simple position can actually be filled with minor piece tension. Please treat this. Let me make sure I pull this out. Did I pull it out? There we go. Please treat this variation in this example as a sort of theoretical dynama. It might not be based on reality, but it has some profound effect on the viewers. I'm hoping this game will pass a sense of urgency, a visualized slap in the face that makes you exclaim, wow! I didn't realize that a boring minor piece battle was so important, and that it could go back and forth so easily. On the surface, things look easy. White has two bishops and would like to open everything up. While black has a bishop and a knight, and would be happy if he could if he could activate his bishop and find a nice home for his knight. The main question here is where. The main question here are, should white take on e5, push d5, or simply ignore the face-off between d4 and e5 altogether? So the question is, should white take here? Should white push? Or should white do something altogether different with the pieces? All these decisions depend on how they ultimately affect the state of the minor pieces. But acquiring the optimal goals optimal goals. Sorry about that. A little too much spit there. Acquiring the optimal goal proves far harder than one might suppose. Let's take a look at these three different options. Okay. First of all, we're going to check the closed center. So d5. This gain space kicks off the bishop's hope for a1 to h8 diagonal, and deprives the knight of c6. Those things certainly sound great, but it falls flat after black's theorematic play. Bishop to g5 exclam. Because what happens now is if you take here, you're now left with a bad bishop. You have a really horrible bishop, white does, and black's got a really good knight. So we've looked at that. Yeah, over here. While white suddenly has nothing, black move forces the exchange of the dark squares. This deprives white of his bishop here, and after bishop takes, not pawn takes, but queen takes, creates a new minor piece battle, knight versus inactive bishop. Okay. Now we're going to look at, if your opponent has two bishops, exchange one off and create a more manageable bishop versus knight situation, a more manageable bishop versus knight situation. So trade one of them off and do that. Okay. One sec, gotta get a sip here. Okay. Now we're going to do passing the move. If queen d2, e takes d, bishop takes, and then queen takes, knight c6, queen c3, rook e d8, rook f e8-1, knight e5, bishop e2, and then queen g5. And black and black has no problems. His knight is a good piece. White's bishop isn't very impressive. White's center majority isn't going anywhere. And black enjoys some presence with the knight on e5 or e4, e5, but they stopped the e4 pawn from moving too. If g3, this is actually a dubious move. c4 is more challenging. If this and d, knight d7, bishop f3, queen e5, queen takes e5, knight takes e5, bishop e2, knight c6, bishop g4, and knight d4. But if c5 were to be played, c takes d, queen takes c5, and then it fails to knight to, this would be a double question mark blunder. Wins the queen. And after knight d4, this is what it says. There was no hurry for let me see here. Okay, back here I wanted to show you some. Right here. Uncovering the rook so that the e4 pawn is attacked, opening up the e5 square for the queen to go to also creates possibilities of knight to c5. That's why he did that, if you're wondering. I mean, there's no real rush for us to go rook e7 and then trying to double up rooks. However, there is no hurry for rook e7 followed by rook ae8 by black. It's also quite good. However, knight d4 shows black certainly winning the minor piece battle, so it is important to highlight that and this right here, rook a d1, and then c5, and the knight has found a permanent home on d4. Now we're looking at this here. If d takes e5, the critical try, however, it's not it's not a trivial decision, because white has to worry about d takes e, giving his opponent a lock on the d4 square after knight c6. Though this sounds impressive for black, it turns out to be problematic since white gains a bothersome initiative after this move here. queen b3, b6, bishop queen g c5 is a blunder. It walks headlong into g4, and white's bishop has won the day. So that's why that there. And if you're wondering why not trade, you really never want to give up the open file if you don't have to, and then the knight comes in, and now if you were to trade, the rook trades, and now black controls the open file, so you don't want to do that. Rook ad1, queen e7, bishop g4. Not the only move by any means, but it's certainly the more thematic. Trading the horrible bishop for white's good one makes perfect sense. Naturally, black would jump into c6 to d4. Sorry, this is the most thematic one for black. Naturally, black would love to jump into in here and then into there, but now they can if they trade off the bishops. This only gives the white queen activity possibilities on the A8 to G8 diagonal, but it also allows the light squared bishop to be active even if it is driven back from that to G. Yep. If the light squared bishop gets driven back, it can come here and then into C4 if it ever gets driven back. But C5 is what was played by white. This activates the queen, like what we were saying. So bishop takes, f takes. White's quite happy with his f1 rook is suddenly the sudden king file, f file. White is quite happy with quite happy with this. His f1 rook is suddenly king of the f file, and black's dream of knight versus knight b8 c64 is no longer on the table. Wow. So this is not looking too good for if the white queen tried to grab the pawn there, that does not turn out the way that that the Majesty would like, because first rook goes powered right on through, rook takes, and then bishop, Rook d8. Check. Queen d5. And you have to play there. Because if you tried this here, you could actually just take with the rook there, and then you're up material after that. So the queen would have to grab this here. And now mate is in the wings. There's really no way to stop the mate. So that's why he just moved. Queen c4. g6. Hoping to chase the bishop off via this there next. Queen c3. Not losing sight of bishop versus knight battle. White takes aim at e5. Also preparing bishop from the g to e2 to bishop. So this is the idea here. Potentially preparing here and there, where it can eye that pawn with the rook. When the bishop finds a roll along the f1 a8 diagonal, mostly notable leaping to c4 or b5 and many variations. He's saying that potentially bishop would bishop c. Interesting. This gives white a fierce to attack black. Can't put up much better defense, but I think the variation after bishop c 8 are still fun for white. This is enjoyable line to analyze, but has no place in this book since it takes us far afield from our bishop and knight thematic. I should add that white has many good moves here. For example, c6 is also a good one. c6 is a good move. Looks tasty and hot and highly sad in the sad state of the black knight. With the sad state of the black knight, that'd be good. queen took here. Oh. F6. Queen takes there. Queen takes, B takes, and then rook d5 with an attack on both rooks, giving white a huge advantage. It's clear white is superior to the knight at the present moment. White finally won the minor piece battle. Okay, one more line. Knight c6, exclaim. So does this mean that d takes e5 is just better for white? Not necessarily. Black lost because he didn't do enough to make his knight challenge the white light square bishop. So let's step back again and show more principal course for black. This is more like it. Black insists on making his knight an active participant in the battle. So queen takes there. Knight d4. This is how a knight should be used. Bishop g4. If bishop takes d, pawn takes e5. Rook b8 is okay for black. And if he takes there, then we could take there. And then the potential we can start pushing. He's got an outside passer, so a5, queen d5, queen e7, c5, rook a, b8. That's to take scope on this pawn here. Giving black good compensation for the sacrifice of the pawn. I should add that d takes e5. Black shouldn't isn't forced to take back on his first move. Here, let me see something. With the pawn, so bishop takes could actually be played here. c5. White should open up things should open things up as much as possible. So potentially this right here would be a good move, and then knight c5, c6, f4, bishop takes, rook b1, bishop f is okay for black. After rook takes, knight a5, c5, rook a4, oops, rook b4, sorry, c5, rook a4, queen c7 to connect the rooks, and then bishop f3, knight c6. That's interesting for sure. Knight c takes, queen takes, queen takes, bishop takes, rook f d1, rook f d8, bishop e2. Remember trying to activate the bishop. This should be 5 or e5. Rook a b1 to guard the pawn. Bishop d4. j5, which fights for the dark squares and prevents f4, f5 isn't actually a better move. It's more an invited sclam. It fights for the dark squares. Bishop f4, bishop e5, bishop takes, knight takes, and then f4. And here white's central majority and active bishop grants him the more pleasurable position, though black's knight is still hoping to make an impact with knight c6 to d4 at some point. We've seen the minor piece battle swing back and forth in these lines. Certainly the bishop versus the knight face-off is important and calls for an energetic and pointed play if you wish to see your minor pieces reign supreme in the Royal Rumble battle. I added that, but he just reigns supreme. Let's see, what do we got here? Perfect. Okay, we're going to do some more. The next session's let's settle down a bit and take a look at some basic situations. First, on our agent is extremely common. Two bishops versus knight and bishop battle. I consider this to be an extension of the bishop versus knight situation, although an exchange of knight for bishop would turn that into a pure bishop versus bishop fight. Posing two bishops is far better than only having one, because the bishop's main weakness is the inability to control a whole color completely. The whole color complex is cured by the fact that both light and dark diagonals can now be patrolled by the bishops. Of course, if the position is closed and all the diagonals are blocked, the bishop might not be very impressive, the bishops. But in general, the bishop pair is indeed a nice thing to have and needs to be dealt with by the opponent. The simplest way to remove this problem is to exchange one of the enemy bishops, either by trading knight or bishop for an enemy bishop, thus creating a far more manageable bishop versus knight or bishop versus bishop situation. Okay, let's put another one in. This is called two bishop the two bishop antidote. Trade one off. The two bishop antidote is trading one off. This is the game here. Shirov's going all out. Okay. Well, Shirov acquired what he wanted, a isolated pawn on Viktor Krushnoi. Bishop d7, rook d2, bishop h6, knight e3, f5, g3, f4, and then rook d1, bishop c7. White seems to be under heavy pressure since black's bishop pairs appear quite fearsome and is clearly better than the bishop versus knight. I have checked, realized there's nothing he can do about the bishop on f4, but the monster on c6 is quite another matter. So he plays this move here, bishop b5 exclam. No. White makes use of our anti-bishop formula. Swap of a passive bishop on e2 for the he calls it the Grim Reaper, which would be the one that does a lot of damage on c6. Takes a lot of heat off of white's game. Bishop f3. No, I don't want to trade. Bishop e2. I insist. Bishop c, bishop b, and they both agreed to a draw. I'll be right back. I'm going to pull up another game thing, and I'll be right back, and we'll do one more, and then I gotta say adieu on this. So I'll be right back here. So. Okay, let's get back to our game now, our stuff. Okay. Sure. Okay, let's do it. Okay, e4, c4, knight f3, knight e6, b3, b3, knight f6, e5, d5. Oops. Knight d4. Let me make sure I've got this right. Knight g3, bishop g there. Knight c4, castles, bishop there, b3, b6, castles, bishop a6, d3, bishop takes, d takes c, knight d, e7, queen e2, c6, rook a d1, or rook a e1, rook a d8, bishop c1, d6, e takes d6, rook takes, queen takes d6, okay. Good, queen takes d6, bishop f4, attach the bishop, queen, rook d1, no, queen d7, rook d1, queen c8, h4, here the h pawn, here we go, there, queen e4, knight d, knight c d4, knight c d4, c d4, gotcha. Knight takes, and c3, there we go, knight c5, or f5, and then queen c2. Okay. White has two bishops, but black has a central majority of pawns. It is important to note that white's queen side majority though it controls the key square d4, and d5 isn't able to expand or transform itself into a passed pawn, since bishops work together very well and control two important diagonals. Black wastes no time in initiating the exchange. So they would be able to break this down if they kept the two bishops, but not so. Yeah, there goes the bishop. Okie dokie. Then knight takes. So, excuse me. Black made sure that Black made sure that they exchanged off one of the bishops for the knight. I mean, bishop for bishop, so that it would come down to a knight versus bishop battle. With the dark squared bishop, with its dark squared brother off the board, the light squared bishop will prove to be remarkably ineffective. From this point on, white can't hope for more than a draw. The knight will show itself to be far more flexible than the bishop, and black's center pawn majority will prove hard to contain. And let's see how they do that. Hip hip hooray, yeah. King up to get the king off and prepare to play f6 and e5. Boom. Black is in no hurry. He uses his king to tighten up the loose dark squares on f6 and and the knight on h6. So queen e2, queen c7, rook rotates rook, rotates rook, rook d1, rotates d1, queen takes d1, and then f5. In comes, and in they come. Boom. Gotta love that. The rest of the game will be given with minor comments. In a nutshell, black slowly but surely repositions his knight, advancing his center pawns and kingside pawns, improving his position of his king, and shows just how useful a knight is at both attack and defense. So let's do it. Alright. Queen d2. Knight, so repositioning the knight is the idea here. Bishop there. Knight f6. He's just removing, positioning the knight, getting it even better and better. e5 to get this pawn a pushing. King f1, e4. Now the bishop's getting pushed back even farther. Bishop e2, king f7. Just bring the knight, just bring the king in. You know what? Slowly but steadily, we win the race. King e1. King e5, or queen e5, queen e3, king g7. This is so that, see what, the reason you're thinking, oh no, why is the king moving back? The king moves back here to cover h7, because the queen wants to come poking in. The queen wants to come in here. I wonder why he actually moved back. King d2. Go figure. King d2. Bishop d6 check. King c2, knight d7. So it's just rerouting the knight. I think the reason also they moved the king was so that he can move his knight. If you notice now, the knight can actually move to e5 and be okay. Otherwise, before, if the king was on if the king was on f7, the queen could go to h6 to lock down the knight to the protection of that square. But now that the king is guarding h7 and h6, the knight's free to roam the board. That makes sense. King c1. Not much that white can do. Knight f8. King c2. Knight e6. Black, who is dreaming of having his pawn act like a tidal wave rushing through white's position, wants to play h6 and then head for f5, and it will break. The wave will break on e3 when the pawns move. Bishop f1, h6. Here comes the waves. Yeehaw, the waves are coming. J5. H takes. King c2. King f6. Just bring the king in, tighten every nut and bolt. King c1. f4. Okay, bang, bang. It says (46). Oh, queen takes. Ah, got it. King d2. Knight g7. The knight acquired its goal on e6. Now it heads to f5. Bishop g2. King e5. Bishop takes. Knight f5. After queen d8. Queen b6. Or b7. King e2. Then king f4. White resigned here. We'll call it on this. There's one other line on move 48 that we could try for white, but we'll give it a quick one. Here, there, bishop takes, king takes, and then king takes is an easy win for black because there's no way for the king to come in. So like, if at this point, because we're locking down, if at this point the king tried something like this, you can actually just push onward with this here. And then if he tries that, we're not going to take. We'll just push here. And then if he takes there, we'll come there if he pushes. Oops, not knight. Queen. So maybe we could push there. And after this, we potentially could take like this. Then at this point, you could say to yourself, do you want to and then now you could take there, and he could try to get in front here. And then now you're winning. And this pawn will go, you can try here, and then you get the pawn rolling. And then you would just win. Okay, we'll call it on this. Wanted to thank y'all for logging on and participating. We learned that you want to, if you have the bishop and knight, bishop versus knight, you want to make the position more active. You want to close the position, I mean, for the knight, but you want to open up the center for the bishop if you're the one with the bishop. We also learned that if you have two bishops and your opponent has a knight and a bishop, watch for them trying to exchange off either a bishop for one of your bishops or a knight for one of your bishops. They'll try to either go into a knight versus bishop ending or a bishop versus bishop ending. And if you can, remember that also for your play as well. That if you ever get in a squeeze like a bind, you can always trade off one of the bishop pairs of your opponents for either a bishop or a knight, and it will kind of loosen up the tension and the attack of your opponent. Because like what Jeremy Silman said, that they work together wonderfully as brothers, the light and dark square bishops. But if one is missing, the other brother is missing. Let's say you have a light square bishop but the dark square bishop's gone. the light squared bishop feels the vacancy of its brother, the dark square bishop. But if you have a dark square bishop, the light square bishop, the dark square bishop feels the vacancy of the light square bishop. But together, they're the tag team, dream team, the Royal Rumble team. And they can cause mass devastation to an entire army. That's why That's why I call them snipers, because they one shot, one knockout. They are that strong. Bishops, when they are in co-tandem together, are working together, they're unstoppable. Okay, but you know what? Remember, that's the cool thing about choices of if you're going to trade off a knight for a bishop or a bishop for a bishop, or if you're the one with the two bishops, what do you do with them? That's why the choice to receive the Lord Jesus, Lord and Savior of your life, is vital. It's a choice that we have to decide. And it's an important one that one day you have to decide and make your mind up on. Are you going to receive Jesus as Lord and Savior or not? And that just comes down to that. That's why what Bruce Lee said is correct. Take what you know and apply it and be willing to do something with it. Always remember to treasure your victories and learn from your losses. Remember that mistakes do not define you. It's how you handle the mistake that defines you as a chess player and a person in general. All around. It all comes down to the Team Chess Cruncher motto of hanging up your coats, hanging up your hat, sitting down and studying when most won't. Team Chess Cruncher does, and that makes all the difference. And as Wesley So says, serve the Lord Jesus. And as I say, God bless, and I'll see you next time on Chess Cruncher TV. Have a blessed morning, afternoon, evening, and Lord willing, I'll be back on tomorrow. And remember, we're going to be studying the bishops in Bishop versus Knight. And games to see how we handle both of those pieces to make them better, and how to reassess your chess 4th edition. We're going to be going through that book, and we're going to learn. And you know what? That's the whole idea about what we were talking about. Is what Hannibal Smith says is that you have to always remember that positions may look random, but there's always a plan. Like if there's 2 bishops and you have a bishop and a knight, trade off either a bishop for a bishop or a knight for one of the bishops. So take a bishop and then and trade a knight off, and then you get down to a bishop versus bishop. Or if you trade a bishop for a knight, then you're good to go again. So all basically you're trying to stop. If you're the one getting all the, as I like to say, the bull is running towards you, you want to calm that bull down, and that bishops are like that. If you could trade one of them off, you can calm down that charge, and sometimes you can turn the tide of the battle and maybe even win, get in a better position like we saw in our last game. Okay, great job on learning, sticking with me, listening to me, and going through us with how to reassess chess 4th edition. We got to keep pushing forward now. So 2 thumbs up, congratulations, hoorah. Keep studying chess and having fun. Okay, bye-bye Team Chess Cruncher. Be blessed, and I will see you tomorrow. Hoorah. Bye-bye, team.